Are you a South African musician trying to come up with ways to market your music on a low budget? Welcome to this episode where I plan on sharing 10 more ways of doing just that. Cue the intro. What's up, it's your boy Skill from skillmusicsa.com and welcome to my channel where I share information with my fellow South African musicians to help them improve on their music business. If this sounds interesting to you, please do consider subscribing as I do have other videos I think you'll find informative. Now, the video before this one, I shared 10 easy ways to market your music for free in the South African context. I decided to give you 10 more ways to go about marketing your music, but this video will have a few ways that need some level of budget in order to market. So the very first one is to set up an email campaign behind your release or song in order to promote your song. Now, the easiest way to do this is a couple of weeks before you release your song, you sit down for at least 2 hours or 3 hours and you make a series of emails where you actually tell your fans that, hey, it's been a long time that I haven't blah, 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 but I'd like you to know that I'll be releasing music. So please be aware that I will be releasing music. If you do not follow me on Spotify, blah, 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 please do. So the way you want to do this is make more than one. You want to make about 5 to 10 of these emails where you send your audience emails in order to let them know that a song is coming up. This is a very personal way of doing it, and the more you do it, the more it will keep on happening to your target market that you have a song that will be released very soon. There's a trick in marketing where they say if you remind an audience 7 times or more, they will remember what you plan on marketing to them. That's why adverts generally repeat themselves. For example, if you're driving down the road and you see a political poster, you don't just see 1 or 2, you see the whole street with the same political advertisement. This is because you won't remember it if you only see it once. So do that with your email marketing campaign. The second way to go about marketing your music, which is also pretty much free, is to set up a WhatsApp mailing list or a WhatsApp group mailing list. Now, the reason you want to do this is because most people in South Africa are using WhatsApp to communicate to each other. So you make a broadcast list similar to a email list and you remind your audience or tell your audience that you will be releasing songs. Now, the way you want to do this is not in a spammy, slapdash, dump and hope for the best approach. I get a lot of those and I actually ignore all of them. If there's no context to what is being sent, I just don't open them. But if you tailor the content to a specific group, make sure they want to get this information, then it's a lot easier. That's why I suggest setting up a WhatsApp group mailing list where you have a set group and you send them the information that you want them to see. The only issue I have with this method is that the contact details are spread out and shared with everyone in the group. Now, the reason you want to make a WhatsApp group is because you are able to tailor the group and people can exit freely from your list. It's different to a broadcast list where you just spam and dump. So the group works better, but there is a privacy issue when you structure your WhatsApp mailing list like this. So keep that in mind. So WhatsApp is a good way to engage with your audience for free. The third way is also very geared to communication, but this one requires a little more cash, but I've had a lot of impact from it because people don't do it anymore. And the third way is to have an SMS campaign or phone call campaign. I use them both in the same type of arena because they both require cash or airtime to do. So it's similar to the WhatsApp one. You don't have to send lots of them because it is expensive. You just send an SMS telling them that you've released a song. There are several services that do send bulk SMSs. So you want to just go to Google and Google bulk SMS and you'll find a service that could work with regards to your budget. But an SMS campaign is a good way to differentiate or make yourself stand out from the people that are using the WhatsApp broadcast list way of communicating. And most of the time, people will probably reply to your SMS because people don't do them anymore and we get them for free with certain bundles. Another way, which is number 4, is a good way to create a loop of communication between your audience and yourself, and that is to make a Voicenote testimonial video. Now, what does this actually mean? So you ask your audience from your SMS campaign or your WhatsApp campaign or your email campaign to send you a voice note that you can use as part of your promotional material to make a video where you're just showing videos of you basically making the song, but instead of you rapping or singing in the song, you mute the vocals and you just put the different voice notes saying how great the song is. It's a good way, and it does not require a lot of cash, and you can cut up the videos into several smaller videos to post in your stories. The reason you want to do this is you want to switch up the type of content you're exposing to your fan base and your target market. So a voice note testimonial video will help you emphasize that you're not the only one listening to this music. You've got actual people that are engaged and are willing to make content for you. Number 5 is basically a gear breakdown of how you went about making this song. The reason you want to do this type of video or campaign is you want to give a different element to the making of the song. I personally know I prefer watching the making videos than music videos because it gives you a background on what the person did, how they went about it, and it's good for conversation amongst gearheads and musicians, to be fair. So you basically tell the people, okay, this is where I went, this is the microphone I used. Try not to be too geeky about it. Don't give too music focused details, but you basically want to give, this is where I currently am. Thank you for supporting me, and this is how I went about making this video because I really appreciate your engagement with my art. So I really want you to see what it takes to make a song like this one. Now, you don't want to go overboard with it either. Basically a short 10. You can make it a short 1-minute video or a long 10-minute video where you post it on YouTube. But the possibilities are endless, but I highly suggest creating a gear guide video of how you made this song or an X song. Now I've given you a few that require no cash, so I'm going to start giving you some where you might put a little more cash to try stimulate engagement with your song. And the next one is to create a remix competition for a song. Now, the reason you want to do this is to have some form of collaboration and engagement from an audience, and it also helps stimulate people that are not knowing of your craft to be involved in your craft. So a remix competition, basically you give away a cash prize or a voucher or whatever you have that you're willing to pay for to give away, and you say, okay guys, this is the stuff that I'm going to give you, but here is the stem. So you give them all the vocals. Try not give the instrumental because people jack these things, but you give them all the vocals and you say, make a remix song. Hear all the vocals, and you leave the original song in there as well so they can get some kind of feel of how the song actually goes. You post it on social media, you market it accordingly, and this will be a remix competition for your official song. People will now have direct access to your song and they would appreciate what you did before, but it will also give you more content because you'll have a new song that you can post again as a remix, and it'll give you a different version of a song, which is highly preferable. If you can have more than one of the same song, then have two. Number 7 is to use your lyrics, repurpose them to make gear. Now, I know there's a lot of ways you can reuse your music, but I highly suggest if you got a catchy line or the title of your song is really catchy, you use it to make gear. For example, the shirt I'm wearing now says, I love NYC. The gear works and it's simple, and it also helps convey a simple message. So for example, I have a song that I'll be releasing soon called I Like Chicken. I'm definitely gonna be making gear. In a few weeks time, you'll probably see me wearing the gear, but use the songs that you have. If you have a cash or a way to make money to fund your merchandise, try use your lyrics. Instead of using the typical logo or the name of your brand, people don't really care about that yet, but if you have a song with lyrics that are somewhat catchy, as an independent artist, catchy phrases work a lot better than your logos. So for me, for example, I know I've got Skill Music SA, I could have that as merchandise, but people will not resonate with that as much as one that I'm suggesting, like for my song called I Like Chicken. I like chicken, everybody likes chicken, everyone can relate to that. So it's a lot easier to sell something like that than a Skill Music SA. So if you're going to be releasing merchandise, try find a song that has some form of catchy line and you use that with your logo if you really want to put your logo on in terms of merchandise. The 8th way is a very low hanging fruit, and I think if you're not at least trying it, you are not fully using your capabilities on Spotify, and that is to use Spotify for Artists platform to submit directly to official Spotify playlists. Now, the reason you want to do this is who doesn't want to be on a Spotify playlist? They've got a lot of listeners. So It's also free, so if you're using any distributor, you should have access to your Spotify for Artists, or go about creating it yourself. And then you simply pitch to Spotify curators for their playlists. It's free, and I highly suggest, if you're releasing a song, to do that. But make sure that you submit your song like 15 days in advance or more in order to be able to be seen by the system that you're releasing a song. Number 9 is another free way that I suggest that you look up into, and that is to submit your songs to music podcasts. Now, another way that requires no cash, just a little bit of effort and time, and that is to submit your songs to music podcasts. Now, there are a lot of podcasts that are popping up specifically geared to music, so I highly suggest that you look or listen to a few podcasts to find podcasts that you think your music would fit into. Most of the time it's free, and you also have the potential to have an interview within that podcast. I've actually submitted to a few and been successful. I've been approached by a few through these videos for the exact same reason. And it's also free, and it's free marketing, and it gives you something to also market and say, hey guys, my song is also featured on this podcast. And you can also add it into your EPK and your press release that, hey, I've been involved in about 100 music podcasts. It's highly suggestible that you look through this avenue, as it gives you a different way to go about reaching different audiences. And the last one, but not the least one, is to submit to your local radio stations. Everyone wants to get on Metro, everyone wants to get on 5FM, everyone wants to get on all these big radio stations, but the easiest ones to get into are the local radio stations and the university radio stations. I'm sure most universities have some form of outlet for their media. I think some have podcasts even. So I highly suggest that you submit your music to these radio stations in your local community in order to start getting your music played, and you actually start earning royalties. Like, you can go into Samro to check which radio stations are covered, but most of them are actually covered. You can double check. If they're not, you can inquire with Samro, as their list is not a full comprehensive list. So you just email Samro and say, Samro, I just want to double check if this radio station is licensed with you. That's if you haven't been able to find them on their users list already. So it's an easy way to get money in the long term as well. So the local radio stations are the ones that you should be hustling from the beginning. Yes, it's not as prestigious as the big radio stations, but the royalties, money still feels the same. It won't be as much, but it's money nonetheless. So I highly suggest that you submit to your local radio stations your music, and you might even be able to get interviews, which is very possible when you're working within your local community. But that concludes this video, where I gave you 10 more ways in which to go about marketing your music. I'd like to remind you that I did release another one a week ago where I gave you 10. So I've given you 20 ways of marketing your music. So please, let's stop spamming. Let's just stop doing these drag and drop paste on our social media, and let's start marketing like the creatives we are. I'd also like to remind you that I have a WhatsApp group where I use as a mailing list, and I share information for my fellow musicians in order to help them improve. I do not spam, I don't believe in that, and I only send once a week or twice a week depending on what information I think people will find useful. But that concludes this video, and until next time, Skilligan the Hooligan, signing